about food in the terms of how we stop caring, let's say, or in the name of procedure, I would say. Because when I
Yeah.
started working for the ships, and like I was asked to throw away food that I could perfectly be eating later in the day, and I
Yeah.
was not allowed.
If you really were a virtuous person and you wanted to do something for the environment, I don't know. I read somewhere like almost half of the food that we produce in the world gets wasted. Okay. Find something we can do about that. This is a real problem that we can absolutely solve. You know, it might not be simple, especially like you were talking about on board. On board, it's a little bit again that
Right.
legal liability is always going to be there. I don't want to say it's a lost cause. There are certainly things that probably could be done, but these things would cost money, and they would take actual political will and some will from the people involved, also, which would be us, the Tumtums, who are. Quite unreasonable when it comes to these kinds of things. Again, like you were saying about the bananas, if they get a little bit mushy, instead of mushing them completely and baking a banana bread, which is totally delicious, by the way, we just throw them away sometimes because we're too lazy. So if you were really serious about the environment and trying to improve our relationship with food, you wouldn't be talking even about, meat versus veggies. We all had mothers. We all know that veggies are good for you. And the government, they actually did something useful. And they provided, I think, 5 chickens to every family. And this worked wonderfully because now suddenly the food waste went to feeding the chickens and the chickens produced more food. Okay. And it was a wonderful idea. I don't know. We should probably be looking into doing similar thing. I think if you wanted to be environmentally conscious, you need to be more involved with your food. Okay. This is the long and the short of it. I mean, now with the hydroponic systems and all kinds of fancy lights that we have, it's most people are perfectly capable of growing a decent portion
Oh
of
God,
their
yeah.
food themselves. Even if you live in the city in some small apartment, the possibility for you to grow a significant amount of food, it exists, okay? It might be a little bit harder for you to keep it chickens.
This is Cosecha Salvaje Wild Conversations, where the world and everyday ideas meet, with Tian and Vivian.
Okay, lead the way. Yeah, that's interesting. Keeping in mind, I don't cook, but sure.
No, man. I mean, like food more generally. Like,
Oh,
uh, so, so obviously I've traveled quite a bit, right?
mm.
Been kind of all over the world, okay? And there are some things that don't make sense to me, okay?
Oh, I maybe have an idea. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
like we're always told back home in South Africa that like the triple A rated fruits and vegetables and the highest quality foods are almost always marked for export because this is where the farmers can make the most money. Okay.
Okay.
However, if you go to these places where they're exporting all of this food to, you sit down in a restaurant, in short, and excuse my French, but the food in Europe is shit by comparison to what we get back home. Okay. Now, there's a few explanations for this. Like one, obviously, if you want to sell a ripe banana in Europe, you have to pick it green in South Africa and then ship it. Okay. Which requires refrigeration. In some cases, if it's things like fish or whatever, needs to be frozen. Okay.
Yeah.
Then it goes to Europe. And then by the time it gets onto your plate, it's no longer triple A grade. Okay.
No, it's
As a
always
matter of
it's
fact,
almost
the B grade
bad.
food, the best foods that I've had was kind of back home for sure in South Africa. We get much higher quality food than you get in Europe for an astoundingly lower price, like a
Mm.
fraction of the price. The same is true for Brazil. In Japan, it's a little bit more expensive, but you still get very high quality food. Okay, it doesn't really, it doesn't really clock for me because you're you're exporting a AAA grade product, but the customer is not getting a AAA grade product. There are other things also, like for instance, I have this personal experience with peaches. Okay, my father kept a small grove of peaches, not a lot. Like it was peaches, plums, and apricots, and there were maybe like 20 trees. Okay,
Mm.
and I've never been able to eat a store bought peach. Okay, because frankly, that's simply not what a peach tastes like. Okay,
Different, yeah.
it, it's not the same. Okay, they now I understand this, and be very careful. I'm not blaming the farmer. The farmer, he's being forced by the global distributors of the food to deliver a certain size product at a certain time of the year. Okay? And this is simply not how nature works. So to accomplish that, the farmers, they wait until the specific time in the peach's development, and then they overwater them. And what happens is the food gains size very quickly, but the nutrients inside is not the same. Okay, it's not a naturally developed fruit. It's just a watery pulp inside. Okay, which
Mm.
is barely as nice as the fruit juice. Secondly, they also have this thing of refrigerating and shipping and all of that shit, which also kind of messes with the quality of the food. Even more than that, and I really don't want to turn this into a rant about vegetarians, but we are also kind of the problem. Honestly, if you believe that, you know, killing all of the animals, taking out all of the trees and plants, bringing a diesel tractor to overturn the soil, then bringing more diesel tractors with, $500,000 implements to plant soya, and then putting tons and tons of like pesticides on it to make sure everything stays dead
Mm.
is better for the environment than a cow grazing in a field. I'm sorry, but you are the problem. And I know the vegetarians are going to say, oh no, but we're talking about the feedlot cows. Okay, well, then say so. Okay. And don't say, I won't eat meat. Then you would be saying, I won't eat meat from a feedlot, which is, I try not to eat meat from a feedlot because, again, the quality of grain fed beef, it's simply not the same as a pasture raised. Okay. It doesn't taste the same. It doesn't even, it's just a fatty mess. Just like people who eat too much wheat and corn, you get fat. It's not, you know, the quality of the meat is affected. So now my question is going to be, okay, so what's the actual reason? If it's, they're signaling virtue by not eating meat, but that's clearly not the actual reason. What is the actual reason why they don't want to eat meat?
Such a difficult question, to be
Actually,
honest.
quite simple.
Ooh, okay, why?
They're uncomfortable with killing an animal to eat. They're uncomfortable with death. Like, don't give a shit about the environment because of all of the tractors and pesticides that they absolutely tolerate. As long as we don't, have to kill a cow for to get my dinner, I feel better. At
That's
least this is
interesting.
my opinion. And I think
Kind of
this is like 90% of vegetarians and vegans out there. This is what's going on.
might be true, and at the same time, it's also a trend, I'm assuming.
Yes, yes, it's a fashion.
It
That's
is a
also a thing.
fashion.
Yes,
That's
yes,
the thing.
yes.
So I'm assuming that the first vegetarians, they became vegetarians because there was a traumatic experience with an animal, for sure. Yes.
Possibly, yes.
Like,
Or they were just poorly informed about where our food comes from.
yes, of course. I mean, you have this delicious steak, and you never know that you have to actually kill a being
Yeah.
to have the delicious steak.
Yeah.
Or, for example, when you the first time they ever saw how the process of like killing a chicken to put it in your
Yeah.
plate happens. And I think that those are uh, they're not nice experiences. Like when I was little and they used to kill the chickens to for the soup or whatever. Oh man, that's not nice. You know, like they just strangle it and give it to you, and like wait, like what do you want?
Yeah.
And then like wailing, that is very traumatic. But it wasn't
Is
traumatic
it?
enough for me.
Is it?
It
Because
it's not
I
nice.
remember having this conversation with a German girl once, and I told her that when I was younger, maybe 10, 11 years old, it would be the boy's job to go out into the farmyard and kind of chase down a chicken
Mm.
and chop his head off and clean the feathers for Sunday lunch. And she was like apologizing to me, like, I'm sorry you had to go through that. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? It was the
It was
best
the
time of
best
my
part of
life.
my day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it depends where you
You
grew
know,
up. Yeah, it depends because I
it,
mean,
it
if you
depends.
grew up
It
in
depends on
it,
your understanding of death. It's what it
mm,
comes down to. Uh, like for instance, people will say that chopping the head off a chicken and having to pull the feathers out, that's a gruesome and violent to them. What's gruesome and violent to me is going into the supermarket and seeing stacks and stacks of neatly packed beef in and pork in like
mm,
vacuum packed polystyrene. That's slightly disturbing to me, you know. But killing a chicken or a cow for your family dinner, it's it's quite natural, you know.
I mean, if you grew up in a farm, yes, like you understand, and like you said, like you were prepared for that tradition, like we
Yeah,
need to eat, and that's what it takes
yeah,
for us to get food in the table. But I mean, there must be more in the process. It's not like we're just using animals to eat. There must be like
yeah,
a background, like okay, we do that, but we also take care of the animals, and there must be a full circle in terms of how that
yes,
works, you know. But for example, me, that I was, if I was 1% in a farm during my whole childhood, I think that was a lot, you know. And then you go and, like I said, like they don't even chop, because I mean, chopping the head off a chicken will be the easiest thing and the less traumatic for everybody involved. No, they strangle it, and you think it's dead and it's not, and
it
start
is that.
cooking as well.
Yes,
No,
yes, yes. This is
no,
why we do the chopping back home, but the strangling is also common.
yes, no,
Uh,
no. I didn't like it.
we do the strangling with game birds. If you hit a bird with a shotgun, it goes down, and sometimes it's
Mm.
not a clean kill. Then you can just give it a quick twist, and the neck pops right off, and it's instant death. Uh,
Mm.
it's quite less violent than hanging it upside down in some machine to be electrocuted,
Okay, fair enough.
to be packaged in a fucking nice white piece of polystyrene, having all of the blood drained out, so you don't have to see that, so you don't have to know that this was an animal once.
The
I
thing is
think if
that,
I was president, because this is also a part of a problem. The opposite end of the spectrum is also a part of the problem. As humanity, we eat too much meat. Okay, we used to
mhm,
eat meat almost every day back home, like, but uh, in smaller portions, right? Like a chicken for Sunday dinner would also become a
Monday.
Monday's sandwiches for lunch. Like chicken mayonnaise, whatever. So we ate less. Okay, we were less wasteful, and we understood where this meat came from, and the sacrifice that some animal had to make for this meat to be on your table. Okay, and we were always taught to be grateful for that. when you get it from this sterile little polystyrene pack from the supermarket, you're so far removed from the process that you feel morally superior because you didn't have to kill this thing yourself, and
It's
you don't really
magical.
care about how
Yes,
this chicken lived and died. It's
of
like
course.
it was just there.
Yeah,
Like it came
yeah,
this way in a little sterile pack of
yeah.
polystyrene. You understand what I'm saying? So
And
I think
and
this
I
is a
think
part.
that's
If
the
I was
reason.
president of the world, people would only be allowed to eat meat that they killed themselves.
And I think that's the reason at least a small percentage of the vegetarians are vegetarians, because they lived in a bubble, you know? They
Yes.
knew meat will appear in their plates. But if they ever encounter a video or a factory, because sometimes the meat factories and chicken factories, they do like tours and things like that. If they were encountered with that reality, a small percentage for sure were horrorized. Because at the same time, we cannot compare. I mean, unfortunately, the world lives by industry, and it happens that everybody needs meat and everybody needs chicken, and doing it in the traditional way that honors the animal and the process is not gonna cut it, because people are demanding food. So that's when everything goes where you were saying, like we need chemicals, we need uh, faster ways to
Growth
kill these animals and
hormones.
grow them. Exactly. It's like I'm pretty sure that was everywhere, but here during a time there was like these chemical chickens. It's like chickens on steroids.
The
That they were
Chinese
like,
import chickens. Yeah.
yeah, they were like just
Yeah.
putting the steroids, so
Mm.
we will feel we were eating more, when in fact we were eating more chemicals than the actual chicken. You know
Yes.
And oh man, in terms of food, I mean, there's also this thing about the meat swaps. When there was a shortage of meat, and here in Bogota happened long time ago. I mean, I do know in Italy it's normal, we have ate it. It's like horse meat, no problem. But
Mm.
it's not normal because here at the time that when that happened, there was no like top tier horses that we were eating. They were like the horses that they were picking up from the homeless people, their
Yes.
transportation, and straight to the, how you call it, to the place where they're killed, the
The
butchery.
abattoir.
Exactly.
Yes.
So yes, so I'm pretty sure everybody in the city, if not in the country, at least we ate one at once.
Look, yes.
Or
If you've had polony, you've had all kinds of funky stuff.
mm,
But polony is notoriously, if it might say pork on there, but they don't tell you how and why. And there's a lot of other things gone into these types of processed meats. I mean, I'd like to say I try to avoid because I know what's in them, but on the other hand, I think it's just snobs. Because the reality is, humanity's been through a lot of shit, and we wouldn't have been here if we hadn't ate a few horses along the way.
yeah,
Okay, this
I
is
agree.
just a fact of the matter. And as you said, you go to Italy, you go to Syracuse. It's a delicacy, okay,
That's
and it's
delicacy.
really, really
Yeah.
good. It's really, really good. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it. I think the problem with horses is a horse is a little bit like a dog in the sense that it's a, a, quite a personable animal. You understand? We kind of see horses on a different tier as cows, which doesn't make sense because cows have a lot of personality themselves. Cows can be, also themselves quite personable, and cows actually make wonderful pets. Believe it or not, like,
Okay, I don't
like.
know. No, no, no.
Yeah, yeah. They're kind of really cuddly and soft animals. It's just the bulls. They get a little bit of a
An
testosterone
attitude.
boost every now and again, and they can be really dangerous. But No, a cow can cows, especially like yeah, they're nice animals to be around, and if you learn to know them and they're comfortable with your presence, especially milking cows, they become really attached to human beings because obviously they see the same people every day and they're like kind of trained and there's a lot going on. There's a relationship there almost certainly between farmer and cow, and plenty of people have cows as pets. So if you want to make that argument for a horse, you got to make the same argument for a cow. They have a personality, these things.
Fair enough. But I mean, here's the two sides of the story. You've been like you actually grew up in a farm, so you know this stuff. I saw cows as a threat, something that
Yeah.
they will poop around and you step on it and you have to um, clean yourself. Yes, I, I don't think I ever been. I
What do
think
you
it
mean
was once.
when we were children on my grandfather's farm, we used to go stand in the cow poop in the winter on purpose because it's
Oh,
nice and
why?
warm. It can keep your feet warm. Yes,
Okay,
yes, yes.
okay.
Yes, yes. They also make. Obviously, it doesn't snow in South Africa, so you have to throw your sister with something. Like,
Oh man. Oh
yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah.
bueno.
Cow poop is basically just grass. It doesn't even smell bad, to be honest.
It
I
does.
kind of like
No,
the
it
smell of.
does smell. No, it smells horrible. Horrible. Like I know. Like when I'm passing the village, I know where's the
Yeah,
food. It's like, oh, that is not nice.
yes.
I mean,
And then I
it's
also
just
saw
yes.
while we're on the topic of cows, my grandfather, well, he was a farmer, obviously, and he kept milking cows. And I saw this other day there is this other new fashion of drinking raw milk. Okay. Now,
Oh, what?
this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. Okay.
Hmm.
Raw milk will 100% make you sick. Okay. And
Okay,
this
what
is
is raw
coming from
milk?
somebody who unpasteurized milk. Okay. Because now
So,
the yuppies are saying when you pasteurize the milk, you're taking out some nutrients, and it's so they're actually like buying raw milk from like certain particular farmers. This is the dumbest thing. Okay, and take this from somebody who's had a lot of raw milk in his life. Okay, we used to live not too far. There was like right down a little gravel road. There was a big dairy. My father used to go there a lot, and we got fresh pasteurized milk from them. As a matter of fact, the pasteurization machine kettles that were there were probably the most modern equipment on that farm. Okay. But sometimes he would also bring a small amount of raw milk because raw milk does taste good. I'll give him that. It tastes really, really good. But there's kind of like strict rules with this because we used to have it. Let's say the cows got milked at 5 o'clock in the morning. By 6 o'clock, you pick up some raw milk. By 7 o'clock after breakfast, whatever's left over went down the zinc. Okay,
Ew.
because people knew that shit that would literally kill you. Okay, the bacteria load in that milk it will give you meningitis.
Didn't know that.
Okay, which will 100%, you know, if you've ever had a lumber punch in your life, you will avoid it as hard as you probably could. Okay, so for everybody out there considering raw milk, unless you saw the milk coming out of the cow with your own eyes, it's probably not a good idea.
That's interesting. I mean, keeping
Yes.
the subject
It's another
of
one of these kind of yuppie fads that's about like it's just in the same vein as most of these people are also like, the vegetarian, vegan types.
that's something that really it's very interesting. Either if it's right or wrong, I don't understand because I mean some of them okay no meat, but we will still um like eat dairy, you know. Like
Mm.
eggs are okay, but they come from an animal. They could be an animal, but eggs are okay. And milk is okay and everything. But there's the other side that they were like, oh no, no, nothing that comes from an animal. Oh, the options are too slim to eat if you eat nothing from an animal. And then the third is like every single animal gets pity or gets consideration from this group, but fish does they don't.
The
It's
pescatarians,
okay.
yes, that's the wildest one. That's the one that makes the least sense.
Yes, it's like okay, are they not? I mean, are they not animals?
Yeah,
How does that work?
yeah, yeah.
Like, who decided that it's okay? We can skip some fishes from the world.
We did this when I was in varsity studying psychology. We did this thing where we actually showed people, like control groups, a video of like there is a small cute little animal that was mostly used for making fur for like it has a really thick proper fur. It's called a mink. Okay, it's a really cute little
Oh,
predator that runs around snowy places and got this wildly warm fur. And the problem is you have to kill like a bunch of them to make a fur coat and this stuff. Okay, so we showed people a video of how they get caught because they catch them in traps and whatever, and all of them were horrified, by how this fur was produced. Um, and then we showed the same people how snakeskin boots how, were produced, and it's an equally horrific process where wild snakes are caught and kind of like literally pinned to a wall with a
the
knife and then
middle.
laid
Mm.
open. Yes, yes, yes. And most all of them had an enormous issue with killing the cute little furry animal, but like
Oh,
more than half of them didn't mind the process for
for the
making
snake.
snake skin. Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
what was the
We're
conclusion?
idiots. We're idiots.
Besides that, we're idiots. What was the conclusion of the study?
When we attach different values to different animals' lives
Yeah,
uh, because of how we perceive them. Okay.
it's exactly
Snakes are
what we.
dangerous, so they can be killed, no problem. This mink, it never harmed anybody, so why would you kill it? Which is kind of an unnatural and not a very clever argument to be making.
It's the same thing that we were talking long time ago in one of the episodes as well about who do we choose, who's the hero or who should be punished, and how easily we change opinions. Same thing was with the
Yeah,
animals. An animal, it's same thing with dogs, to be honest. I've seen owners that the puppy is the most beautiful thing in the world until they bite them. And then it's a
yeah,
horrible animal beast and it's like I don't know, we change opinions really, really.
yeah. Because we don't hold ourselves to any sort of standard.
Mm,
Whatever we say goes today, goes today. We're idiots, to be honest. Like there is there is no way to justify our opinions on how we treat animals, almost from either side. Whether you think we should keep all animals alive, which is under this guise of conservationism, which is really turned into preservationism, which is almost worse than just killing them, to be honest. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense. There is no standard.
well, yeah, actually, when we talk about food standards, they're quite complicated in a way. But before that, when you were talking about like the export food, I don't remember if you ever tried papaya. Have you ever tried
Oh, they
papaya?
grow in South Africa. We have plenty of.
Okay.
There is
So,
one in the garden back. We have plenty of papaya. We call them a pawpaw, though.
for what?
A popo.
Popo. Why did I say that?
Yes, popo. P-A-W-P-A-W. Yeah.
Popo. Okay, so I'm not sure how does the papaya, like the actual natural papaya in South Africa, taste, but it's nowhere near to milk. It's literally I don't know. It's very specific flavor and also smell. But
Yes.
lately, the papayas were very milky. Like
Mhm.
you cut them and they literally had milk in it, which is not normal for a
Yes.
papaya. Like a natural papaya doesn't have. And my mom told me about like she met a one of the big guys who export papaya to the world, and his first thing said like the papaya. And she said, "Oh, really? It's like lady has this milky shade and things like that." I said, "Good, don't do ever again." And she was like, "Why?" And he said that since papaya is so delicate, literally like it lasts 1 day or two tops.
Yes. It gets rotten very fast.
Exactly. So he said, we found out the way to keep it, preserve it for a few days after being shipped. And that's not all, like, that's some a cocktail of chemicals that help it to
Yeah.
grow and to look nice, but it gives this milky color as well because
It
normally the
preserves the
papaya is
milk
like,
because
yes.
this this milkiness, it is in the plant. If you take the stems of the leaves of this papaya plant and you break it, some milk will come out. It's latex. It's
Mm-hmm.
what it is. It's basically rubber. Okay. So what happens is they cover the fruits in some wacky chemical,
Mm.
and like I said before, they pick them before they're ripe. So the skin of the papaya has not yet ripened to the point where it's a skin. It's still a living thing
Mm-hmm.
with this milky latex inside, and this milky latex is poisonous to you. By the way, it's not good for you. So yeah, they kind of lock it in, which means you can ship it, and it only gets ripe on the shelf a few days later, and that way you can actually get it to somebody and sell it to somebody before it goes all wonky. But yes, this is an issue. It's why I in my opinion, the food in Europe is terrible because this process they use for almost all fruits. Okay, it's no good. The shelf ripened fruit are never going to be the same as the ones ripened on a tree.
Oh, it's the same thing that I told you I saw in like social media no long ago about like banana being clearly like super plastic, you know, and what it was like watermelon. Or let's not go too far from what we used to have and what you're having now. We all know that the
Hmm.
fruit that they put on the ships is it needs to last.
Yeah,
Period.
yeah,
So there is a good amount of chemicals to make it last because there's no other way. There's literally it's not an industry that can lose. They need to
yeah,
feed their people.
yeah, exactly. But again, it's because we're snobs. You see, there are many foods that's quite easy to preserve. Carrots and potatoes can last months if they're stored properly, right? Um, and they don't even need to be refrigerated. But nobody wants to eat just carrots and potatoes for 6 months or more. So again,
No.
it's us. Us. We are the problem. It's not the food. It's not the farmer. It's number one problem is the big corporate suppliers, the people who will only buy apples if there are no brown spots on them, who will
Oh yeah.
only buy fruits of a specific size. The reality is that the fruits don't grow to some specific size. They don't fit in some to fit exactly through some ring, some plastic ring, some guy designed to measure what is the quality of a fruit. It doesn't work that way, you know. Sometimes the smaller ones are taste much better. And the only way to accomplish this for the farmer to feed his family and to sell his product is he needs to uh, apply certain practices that affect the quality of what we eat. For instance, the high nitrogen fertilizers, the excessive watering of fruits to get this water retention to reach a specific size. Picking fruits way too early so that they are not rotten by the time they get to the customer. All of these things affect the quality.
Very
Yeah,
wild.
yeah.
But especially the latest generation that, like we said, like everything has been on the plate ready, and we just got used to that. Apples doesn't have bruises that even, I mean, that's part of education from the parents as well, you know. It's like if a banana gets like mushy and brown, that's not good. You throw
Yeah,
it away, you know.
yeah.
And
That is so wild.
yes, I think
You
it's
know,
it's
there was this one, I don't know who he was, some guy, maybe I saw in a meme or something, who was saying, like, we live in a world where most people would gladly lick someone else's asshole, but they won't eat a banana with a brown spot on it. It's like,
yeah, yeah.
okay, yeah.
Hmm.
What does that say about us? What exactly does that say about us? You know,
We're very interesting
we're
people.
idiots.
We actually do a lot with our mouths that it's not like family
That's
friendly right
quite
now.
unhygienic. Yes, yes.
Yes,
We do much worse things with our, no, most people would not mind chugging a Red Bull, which is basically just a bomb of caffeine and chemicals. But a banana with brown spots, no, 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 no.
never.
It's got to be perfect. Also.
I was thinking when you were talking about like how you were taught in your family to not be wasteful, you know, and to like use your sources and resources. I mean, because I came from that same background out of necessity,
Mhm.
but same thing, you know, like there's no one grain of rice that would be left over or put in the trash. You know, it's a, I mean, there's no life. Life will not continue until you finish your food, things like that. And or the famous thing that you told me that is also famous in South Africa is like do it for the kids of Africa. You know, that kind of blackmailing kind of thing for you to finish your food. But then I think like the biggest shock I got about food in the terms of how we stop caring, let's say, for in the name of procedure, I would say, was when I
Yeah,
started working for the ships, and like I was asked to throw away food that I could perfectly be eating later in the day, and I
yeah,
was not allowed.
yes,
I mean, there is a reason why, of course. I mean, animals and many, many other things. But that was difficult to compute. You know, it's like how I was being like literally blackmailed to not waste, and now
yeah.
it's almost
How do
celebrated.
you how, do- how do you yes? How do you reconcile? And this comes from the legal liabilities that companies have. Like you'll find the same kind of rules at McDonald's. If the burgers are made and if after a specific time they're not sold, they need to be chucked. And they're not even allowed to give them to the homeless or whatever because there is some legal liability if some bacteria got into the food and somebody gets food poisoning. It could cost them millions, so it's cheaper to just throw away the food. So if you really were a virtuous person and you wanted to do something for the environment, I don't know. I read somewhere like almost half of the food that we produce in the world gets wasted. Find something we can do about that. Okay, this is a real problem that we can absolutely solve. You know, it might not be simple, especially like you were talking about on board. On board, it's a little bit Again, that
Wait,
legal liability is always going to be there. There's very little they can do about it. And if they make too little, people will complain. If they make too much and they throw away a lot, uh, people complain. So I don't want to say it's a lost cause. There are certainly things that probably could be done, but these things would cost money, and they would take actual political will and some will from the people involved, also, which would be us, the Tumtums, who are quite unreasonable when it comes to these kinds of things. You know, again, like you were saying about the bananas, if they get a little bit mushy, instead of mushing them completely and baking a banana bread, which is totally delicious, by the way, we just throw them away sometimes because we're too lazy, you know. So if you were really serious about the environment and trying to improve our relationship with food, you wouldn't be talking even about, you know, meat versus veggies. We all had mothers. We all know that veggies are good for you. Okay, you really don't need to tell us that. Um, what you would be doing is you would be trying to figure out how to stop the wastefulness. This is a really big problem. Yeah.
that makes me think also about like 10 years ago or before the all you can eat parlors, where you didn't have the rule that they have now, that like you have to finish a food or you pay the full price of the dish. But before,
Yeah.
I wonder how it was. I never went to one that you didn't have the policy. So, but I'm assuming that the policy was born because there was a lot of waste. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I mean, because we all have
Yeah.
a big eye, like we say here, like your eye was bigger than your stomach, and
Yes. 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 This is also common, and quite a human thing, I think. I mean, for me, there was this. They had a very similar problem in Belgium at some point. I can't remember exactly when. And the government, they actually did something useful, and they provided, I think, 5 chickens to every family, and this worked wonderfully because now suddenly the food waste went to feeding the chickens, and the chickens produced more food. Okay,
right?
and it was a wonderful idea. I don't know. We should probably be looking into doing similar thing. I think if you wanted to be environmentally conscious, you need to be more involved with your food. Okay, this is the long and the short of it. I mean, now with the hydroponic systems and all kinds of fancy lights that we have, it's most people are perfectly capable of growing a decent portion
Oh
of
God,
their
yeah.
food themselves. Even if you live in the city in some small apartment, the possibility for you to grow a significant amount of food, it exists. Okay, it might be a little bit harder for you to keep it chickens, for instance. But as you can see, if you go to certain places in the world, for instance, Tokansipa people who live in apartments keep cows. You know, like
Are you
like
insane?
like this is also common in South Africa. You'll find people who live in what would be described as informal housing, which is just a nice way of saying shack. People
Mm,
who live in shack, and he's got 10 cows out grazing
no,
somewhere on some public land somewhere, and
they don't talk.
they're eating really well. You know, they've got enough milk. They've got also, by the way, they cook the milk, they pasteurize it. They have a process for doing this at home. Just throwing that out there, and
Holy cow!
they obviously have beef. So, yeah, where there is a will, there is a way. But there is no political will. We don't want to fix the problems. We want to signal the virtue that we are fixing the problem, which is not the same thing as actually fixing the problem. Okay, it's like electric cars that the math don't math to me personally. It doesn't make sense to me.
But that's interesting because I mean, I never actually thought about food in that sense because I mean, information is polluted. Let's be honest. There's few, not too many, and not too famous. I know there is a YouTube channel from a lady with a small family. It's a single lady from Colombia who all she does is just teaching people how to farm. She's quite
Grow their
famous.
own food. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Look, there are
And
many benefits to this, and not only for the environment. There are, like certain things should not be as centralized as they are. We saw, for instance, in China when the communists took power, like 70 million people dying of starvation because they couldn't provide for themselves, and the government stopped doing so. Uh, so ask yourself the question: if something happens, God forbid, and the people who are providing you with food right now can, for some reason, no longer do so, what are you going to eat if the supermarkets are closed? This happened close to home in South Africa. In Zimbabwe, this happened. I told you the stories of going on holiday in Zimbabwe as a
right.
child.
Mm,
And being told, no, you cannot have eggs for breakfast, it's illegal, because if every egg does not turn into a chicken, people will starve to death.
of course.
This happens. This is not something that used to happen in the old times. This is still happening today, you know. Uh, and we have the capacity to feed every person in the world twice over if we try. There's simply no political will to do so. Especially if people in developed nations, people who are supposed to be quote unquote civilized, you know, they have all of these resources to be able to provide for themselves, but they choose to be dependent on these food supply chains that, for all of the reasons we've already discussed, are not ideal. It's just simply not an ideal way to get your own food.
That's very
I
interesting,
can make
especially
an even
because
more controversial argument. I could say something like, people always have a lot to say about hunting, for instance.
that was
Okay.
my next thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you got to look at the numbers. There are only two places in the world where wild animals are getting more and not less, and those places are North America, the USA and Canada, and Southern Africa, South Africa, Botswana, Namibia. It is no small coincidence that these are also the places where hunting is most relevant. Okay, because the way it works is if uh, if it pays, it stays. Think about it this way. Let's say the vegans get their way and we all stop eating cows tomorrow. Okay?
Mm.
Uh, do you think people are gonna breed and keep cows around anymore? No. The farmer needs to feed his family. He's gonna get rid of the cows. He's gonna get rid of the trees. He's gonna kill everything. He's gonna plow some fields and he's gonna plant grain. Okay, because he needs to eat. Okay, and we need to eat. It's yes, maybe a few people will keep cows as pets, and probably there will still be some cows in India for other reasons. But essentially, cows will go extinct overnight. Okay, because there will be no, unfortunately, and it's not an ideal reality, but the reality is, if it pays, it stays. If there is no economy surrounding wildlife, and don't come to me with this game drives and eco. No, I'm sorry. You're farting against thunder there. This is sure you can make people pay to come and look at a lion. Sure, but at the end of the day, this it becomes little more than a big zoo. And believe me, I've worked on these game farms. It's just a zoo. Those animals are one tame because they see 1,000 fucking people every day who come in Land Cruisers to gawk at them. Okay, they are so used to it, they're not wild animals anymore. Okay, they are completely tame. They often have collars because
You
if
never
you've
know.
ever been around lions, you know, they're, when they don't want to be found, they can be really hard to find. So they have like GPS trackers and collars. And if they get in a fight and they get badly injured, these people don't allow the natural world to take its course. They get a vet in, they tranquilize the animal, they give them some treatment. Often they even put it in a boma, which is essentially a cage, so that the tourists don't have to come there and look at a lion who got fucked up by some other lion. Because people don't want to see that. They just want the selfie, in the game cruiser. This is ecotourism is not preserving the wild world at all. It's not the same. Whereas in South Africa and in North America, where you have people going out and hunting actual wild animals, there is an economy surrounding it. So there is a reason to make sure there is always more animals around next year. There is a reason to allocate significant portions of land to this. And this gives the animals a way to pay for their own stay in our world. Because look, if you're uncomfortable with the death, yeah, there is really very little I can do for you. Well, the reality is we're all gonna go that way someday. But creating some fake artificial wilderness for people to come and look at is not really the best solution, to be honest. For instance, I know of this one particular game farm, and it was in the news. I don't want to name any names because there were some very famous people involved. What had
See.
happened was there was a large rhino bull, and he was earmarked by legally CITES, which is an organization that controls the hunting of the endangered species and the export of endangered species, really. There was a legal permit for this animal. However, he was kind of like Cecil the Lion, a little bit famous. He'd been on TV a few times, and people knew about this animal. He was a particularly large a rhino bull. So then, in order to prevent the rhino from being hunted, some exceptionally wealthy housewife, American, came and bought the land for a crazy price from underneath the owner of this ranch, where, let's call it, where the animal was living. And she obviously did not allow the animal to be hunted. What she didn't know was that this animal was picked to be hunted for a very particular reason. He was so large and so aggressive that he had a habit of killing other rhinos. All right.
Oh, it's
Because
dangerous.
they saved him so that they could be the heroes in the media, in the 3 or 4 years after this animal was, after this whole fiasco played down, I know of at least 4 different other rhinos that was killed by this particular rhino in fights. Okay?
Mm.
So what they ended up having to do was they cut off his horn and they shipped him like 1,000 kilometers into the middle of nowhere where there was other bigger bulls that could keep him in order.
Is it
Obviously,
still
that
alive?
didn't make the TV. Huh?
Is it alive? Still, we don't know.
As far as I know, it's still alive. Yes, as far as I know, he's still alive. But The very thing that made him famous, this enormous, knife on
Yeah.
his face that he was using to murder the other rhinos, they had to cut it off. And obviously, like I said, they didn't put that on Facebook because that doesn't fit the narrative. You know, the very same people, they were extremely against culling. Okay, now culling is the practice of when you fence a, an ecosystem. All right,
Mm.
you create a lot of problems. Okay, for instance, in this particular case, the herbivores kept getting more and more and more because obviously now there was no hunting going on anymore. People weren't utilizing these animals, so they just kept getting more and more and more. And well, the lions, they kind of got picky because there's so much food available. The
Yeah.
lions actually started targeting giraffe, especially, you know, and they would basically kill 2 giraffes a week and almost nothing else. So all of the other antelope around, their numbers skyrocketed to the point where if you looked at this game farm on a satellite map, it started looking a little bit like a desert.
Okay.
Okay, because they just destroyed everything. They just ate everything. Okay, the
Yeah.
plants were just yeah. So, in order to make more grassland, this very same people who were so against, just, you know, killing a few wild animals and putting the meat on the market for sale, feeding some communities, maybe the poor communities that were right there around them, instead of doing, what the the previous managers were doing, the people who understood the cycle of life and death a little better, what they did was is they got a tractor and they started mowing down thickets. In other words, they chopped down bushes so that they could create more grassland. Okay. And unfortunately, in this area, there is a lot of slow moving animals, especially tortoises. Not tortoises, turtles. No, tortoises. Yes, that's the correct one. Uh, Sorry, not a native English speaker. Okay. Yes, tortoises who cannot. It's simply not fast enough to get out the way of a moving tractor with a lawnmower behind it.
Oh
Essentially,
no.
a bush cut.
They got killed,
And
did they?
I mean, uh, them. You also have things like hedgehogs and porcupines. They just get, you know, minced by this thing.
Oh man.
And this is conservationism somehow is and these tortoises, they get like 300 years, 400 years old, and then some day some dickhead with a fucking tractor just comes along and minces. It's terrible.
I see.
Uh, I mean, how do you reconcile your conservationism now? It's sickening. All because you were too yellow bellied to do what needed to be done because you wanted it fenced. You put up the fence, but you didn't want to deal with the consequences of that. So now what you've done is you've destroyed an entire ecosystem because the thicket is a part of the ecosystem. There are animals that rely on this thicket, but now you need to chop it down and make more grass because you don't want to kill a few impalas. It's absolute insanity. This is the nicest word I can think of. It's ridiculous, and these
Okay.
people are all over Facebook, signaling how virtuous they are and
Of
how pristine their natural environment is.
course.
It's bullshit. Ecotourism is a farce.
Course. It's just that it seems like we like to be recognized for trying to save the environment, but not actually doing it. That makes me think. Like I
Yeah,
said, I never actually thought about the food process. Not well because my whole life I've been in the center of like the city, so there's not a lot of information I think like
Yeah,
the
people
closest
don't know
or
that these things are happening. If they
eh,
knew, they wouldn't be going along with it the way
probably
they are.
not, or who knows? Because at this moment, people they turn their face it, where it's more convenient. But it's funny that we like the world now is all about saving the environment and like recycling and separate paper and plastic and everything. Like we can do lots of things with like recycled paper and lots of things
Mhm.
with recycled plastic and like plastic cups and everything, but nobody says, okay, how can we make more food or how can we make the food last longer? Or, like there's a few, like very few people who can actually teach you how to not survive per se, not necessarily, but like make a living with sources
Yeah.
that we
Yeah, and
have.
I mean, there are ways. The older people, they knew how to do this. They knew how to smoke food and preserve so that it didn't waste. They knew how to keep food for long periods of time without refrigeration. It's not some magical science. We haven't forgotten there are still plenty of people that can do these things.
Yeah, of course.
Uh, who people just aren't interested, as you said. They're not interested in actually making a difference for the environment and actually making our food chain more efficient. They're just interested in being more virtuous than their neighbors,
Oh man.
or appearing at least more virtuous than their neighbors. It's not nice. I don't have much nice things to say about that particular human trait.
I wonder why, these small farms that not here, because the small farms that make their own food and they literally bring everything to the city and sell it to reasonable prices. But there's the opposite. I remember once I went to like a private farm and I didn't know. And then I found out it was owned by a foreigner in the Dominican
Hmm.
Republic. And they had a fair amount of things. And I remember I wanna buy a case of eggs, 24 case of eggs. And they told me the price and it sounded not normal, you know. And I Googled it and this person was charging me at least 10 times more of the
Yeah,
price of a normal if
yeah,
I just go to Carrefour and just buy it. I
yeah.
wonder why what is it? Is it like because you want money or because like farming your own food is really expensive?
Unfortunately, because of the things we just said, people want to appear virtuous and not actually be virtuous. It's given these people the ability to say things like, "Oh, this is 100% organic." Organic
Okay.
is the catchphrase that they
Yeah,
use.
yes.
But by organic, they really just mean we're selling you some shit food for twice the price. It's become a marketing strategy. Okay, because if you say an egg is free range, nobody's going to check if the egg is actually free range. Nobody is actually going out and seeing what is the quality of life that these chickens are having, because free range can mean a lot of things. Eh, You know
For
what I mean?
instance. Mm-mm.
I mean, I don't know exactly what the standard is, but how much space does a chicken need to have for it to be free range? It's completely objective. It's clearly not free range because then the chicken would leave. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you're keeping it in some kind of enclosure. How big is the enclosure and how many animals are in it? Okay, so maybe it's not a feedlot,
Mm-hmm.
but does this chicken ever see some grass? Does it ever eat some bugs, or is it still just eating, some fish meal uh, uh, from a fucking factory leftovers? You know, it means almost nothing. That's what I'm saying. Like, however, because this is in demand, because people want things like free range, and they have absolutely no they're not very consequential in checking what it is. We have people taking advantage, and that's all it is. Uh, Highly likely these chickens aren't all that free range at all.
That's interesting how the organic word got such an evil power
Yeah, marketing is an evil power.
in terms of food. Like sometimes it's better not to think about it too much unless you're in
I mean,
control
it
of your
certainly
own
makes you
food.
feel better.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. Because if anybody, I think this is the problem. People aren't thinking about it. They're just
Mm,
believing whatever they read on the package, and they're
what
falling
do?
for the bullshit.
Well, yeah.
I mean, because people aren't thinking about what they're doing. Like if you think about it, it would be quite obvious that a cow grazing in a pasture is not worse for the environment than a field of fucking soya. But yet everybody wants fucking soya milk in their coffee now, even though it tastes shit. But it makes them look like they care. It's ridiculous.
Anyhow, it's a long subject to be honest.
Yeah,
And the more you talk
just
about it, it gets worse and
it
worse.
gets
It doesn't
worse and
even get
worse.
better.
Yeah,
Yes, there's there's literally like a depressing one.
yes, it gets a little bit depressing. I guess the
I
key
mean, we love.
takeaway being be as involved with your food as possible. If you can grow it, if you can keep animals, do that. You'll be better off, and your family will be better off for it. If you can substitute some grain-fed beef with wild hunted venison, that's a good idea. That'll actually make a difference. Stop being a tuntum. Stop believing what they're telling you on the TV. Same as our last episode. Turn off your damn TV.
It's gonna be a little bit difficult, but
Eh,
doable.
It's just a button. Press it.
Anyway, thank you for today.
Thank you.
Until the next episode, Mister.
Very good.
Thank you for being part of the tribe. Your support makes these conversations possible. This is Cosecha Salvaje, Wild Conversations.